biggest games, the best performances, expert analysis. You are Locked On Now.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Now NBA, local experts on the biggest stories across the league. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday. On Locked On NBA, hosts are ready to help break down everything for you, but let's start with Thursday's biggest game.
The biggest game.
The 76ers continue to struggle without Joel Embiid due to COVID. The Raptors, playing tough on the road, got some clutch shots from Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. to put them over the top. Locked On Raptors breaks it all down for us.
The Raptors win a wild one in Philly. I'm Sean Woodley here from Locked On Raptors with a quick recap of the Raptors' 115-109 win in Philadelphia to snap a 3-game losing streak. And there are a lot of places we could go with the big takeaway from this one. Scotty Barnes was wonderful once again. A third quarter burst from him really kept the Raptors in control of this game, actually put the Raptors ahead, frankly. Fred VanVleet had some massive shot making as well, some really great finishes around the basket. But the real story from this one, I think, is OG Anunoby, who late in this game, with the game on the line, had 2 enormous assists on corner threes by Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet, where he was doing the thing that the Raptors have been priming him to do all season long, running the Raptors offense late in the game, getting Andre Drummond onto switches and punishing that mismatch, finding 2 open shooters back-to-back for 2 huge threes to put the Raptors up after they trailed at one point 109-107. Those 2 threes put them up 113-109 and basically put it away. You know, it was just a 20-point, 4-assist, 4-rebound game for OG in this one, but those last 2 assists in particular, really great indicators that his progression as a lead playmaker is coming along quite nicely, and the Raptors pick up a big win to move to 7-6 as a result. I'll have more broken down on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Raptors, so be sure to tune in.
Let's go around the league.
Elsewhere around the league, the Indiana Pacers came out strong on the road and handed Utah their first home loss of the season last night. Indiana did a lot of things right in what our Locked On Pacers host called the biggest win of the year to date.
The Pacers get their biggest win of the season by a mile, beating the Utah Jazz 111-100 in Utah, handing the Jazz their first home loss of the season. It was incredibly impressive performance from the Pacers. Malcolm Brogdon was terrific with 30 points. TJ McConnell was excellent with 21 points. A couple other guys in double figures as well. But really, it was defense that carried the Pacers in this one. Holding the Jazz to 100 is extremely impressive. Beating the Jazz in the rebounding department is extremely hard to do. The Pacers were able to do that. They really just played a complete and excellent game, and it was one that the Pacers really needed after a dud last night in Denver, losing to the Jokic-less Nuggets, to come out the next night, respond, play at their highest level, beat a really good Utah team, and Utah was exactly what this Pacers team needed. A little kerfuffle, I don't know what the perfect word is for it, between Myles Turner and Rudy Gobert resulted in some ejections with about 4 minutes to go, but the Pacers were up 13 at that point. They comfortably controlled this game, and we'll break it all down to what it means for the Pacers on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
Luckily, an ugly loss for the Utah Jazz was overshadowed by a late mix-up between Myles Turner and Rudy Gobert. That will lead the highlights, but Locked On Jazz caught everything Utah needs to improve on and fills you in after the loss.
An ejection-highlighted game with all sorts of problems for the Utah Jazz as they fall at home by 11 to the Pacers. Hi, it's David Locke with Locked On Jazz. The Utah Jazz lost to Indiana 111-100, but the big story will be about a Myles Turner, Rudy Gobert wrestling match that then ended up leading to ejections for Joe Ingles and Donovan Mitchell because of contact with officials. We'll see whether there's any long-term impact for that on the Jazz. The other long-term impact will be the fact that Indiana came into the Jazz house and simply outplayed them with a one-on-one game from Malcolm Brogdon, a three-point shooting game from Myles Turner, and just ripping rebounds away from the Jazz in the first half, grabbing half of their misses in the first half. Indiana thoroughly outplays Utah 111-110. For more, go to Locked On Jazz.
The LA Clippers put their 5-game win streak on the line against a hungry Miami Heat team and just barely made it to 6 in a row. Locked On Clippers tells you why Miami gave LA its toughest test of this win streak so far.
What is going on, Clips fans? Chuck Mockler here, one half of the host and duo over at Locked On Clippers, coming at you after the Clippers get their 6th win in a row. This one a terrifying 112 109 victory over the Heat. Paul George yet again, a masterful performance on both ends, 27 points. Nick Batum had the game-saving deflection and was just an all-around elite defender. He guarded ones, he guarded fives. It didn't matter. Reggie Jackson and Eric Bledsoe combined for 43 points. Zubac has a double-double. The first quarter was very rough. They gave up 40 points, but it was all Clippers after that. The win streak is at 6. I think we're sneaking up on some people. Who knows? It's on to the Wolves to try and make it 7 in a row.
That's a wrap for us. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every day. For more on the association and your team, make your next listens Locked On NBA and your team's Locked On podcast. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Now.